Welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Hello and welcome to the MMA Fan Show. I'm Stu Whiffin. I will introduce Blake Harrison shortly. He's missing at the moment. He's missing in action. Anyway, before we get on to what today's show is going to be all about, me and Blake will bring you up to speed on that shortly. Before we do anything, we want to shout about our sponsors. Now, Ferocious Fightwear. You can see on the desk in front of me there some rash guards, some shorts, some gum shields, some wraps. They're such a cool little company. And I'm not doing them disservice saying they're a little company. They're a newish business and they're trying to grow. And they come over to this studio and got chatting to me and said, look, can you get the word out there? We're really trying to sort of grow this business. And it's a real lovely, he's a lovely lad that runs it. So can't recommend it enough. He's even given you a discount code. You can see on the big screen there, it is MMA Fan Show 15. That's MMA Fan Show 15. So if you're listening to this, go head over to ferociousfightwear.com. Go and have a look at all the amazing gear they do. And then when you're in that shop, pop that discount code in because A, it shows that his sponsorship with us is working, and B, you're supporting a new and exciting and independent business. If you missed the last show, you wouldn't know about this, but we have a new sponsor as well, Fat Candy. And Fat Candy do these, it's popping off on TikTok. My kids are all over this stuff. And so that's why I kind of knew about it when they reached out. It's freeze-dried sweets. So you can see them in front of me there. What they do is they get all of your kind of classic sweets, your pineapple cubes, your cola cubes, Skittles, and all sorts of stuff. And they freeze-dry them and they basically just expand and become this kind of really unique and stupidly sweet sort of texture. Go and get some because... you're going to love them. And if you want that little kind of sugar hit, that's your stuff right there. Your kids are going to love them as well. That's the standard. Look how cool they look. Anyway, Fat Candy have given us a discount code as well. And that discount code is SWEET MMA. So you need to go over to fatcandy.com and go and put that discount code in and get your mitts on some delicious stuff. Anyway, where is he? Where is he? Let me just minimalise this screen and see if he's there. There he is. There he is. Oh, you've been here, there and everywhere, haven't you? Doing your acting malarkey.
Doing some acting, yeah. Been back and forth from different parts of Belgium. Been in Namur. Been in Antwerp, Brussels, Waterloo. You know?
You're going
what
global,
ABBA was
Harrison.
singing about. Well, global as long as it's within Belgium.
International.
That's right,
International.
Yeah. So yeah, but it's been good. Been good fun. Been a really nice thing to work on. 1940s police officer is what I'm playing.
Nice.
So that's why I'm quite shaven at the moment. Quite clean shaven. Got to be shaven in the 40s. So yeah. So it's been good fun. But obviously, there's been a lot going on in the world of MMA and combat sports. This was supposed to be we're going to pick our dream UFC 304 card. And then Dana White, bastard that he is, has announced it.
Yeah.
He's only got announced the whole card, or at least the main card anyway. So we kind of thought, well, that sort of makes our idea a little bit redundant now. So we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to talk about the 304 card. But before we do, we need to talk about Fury Usyk. We have the first ever, not first ever, but the first undisputed heavyweight champion in 25 years, I think
Since
it
Lennox.
is Alexander. Yeah, so 25 years, first undisputed champion in that time. And also, we want to talk, obviously, about our man, Lerone Murphy, who was on the show only last week, talking about his upcoming fight with Edson Barboza. What a performance he put in, and we'll be talking about that as well.
Absolutely. I've only just watched The Miracle, or should I say The Iceman.
Yeah.
I've only just watched it because I've been moving house and I've got no TV, no Wi-Fi, and I'm not going to have, apparently, for another few weeks. So it's really messing with my...
Jesus.
Which is messing with everything. I can't do anything. And I've got no phone signal where I
Watch
live either.
party.
And
Watch party at the studio, mate.
there you go.
That's what you need to
what we
do.
need to do,
Watch
isn't it?
party at the studio.
But I jumped on Fight Pass in the office this morning and sort of whizzed through Larone's fight. And yeah, I mean, do you know what the main thing was, right? Because I thought he looked phenomenal. And apart from that kind of up kick at the end of the first, I thought he looked absolutely fantastic. Sent a message out to that division that he is no joke. And and it was really weird as the sort of fight went on, and he was really sort of asserting his dominance, and it was obvious that he was the better fighter. And it was interesting seeing the sort of the sort of stats that they were throwing in, and the tweets that were popping up all seemed to be about Edson's going into the fifth round already has taken 100 head strikes. And, you know, we're now seeing the changing of the guard and Edson. And it's like, you know, Edson was fighting in the UFC before Lerone had even put a pair of gloves on in the gym, blah, blah, blah. I disagree with that. I think Edson's been looking... I don't disagree with them stats, obviously, but what I'm saying is the fact that it was like, yeah, Edson's, you know, he's done that. Edson's been looking good. And I don't think it was anything that Edson was doing wrong. I think it just showed just how good Lerone Murphy was. And because no one was saying that in Edson's last fight or the fight before that. And his ranking puts him in a, you know, he's ranked 12th. He's not a spent fighter. I know he come into this one the underdog, but I think to just reference Edson Barboza's shortfallings in that fight is a disservice to Lerone. I thought Lerone looked fantastic.
I'd agree with that. I agree. I mean, you look back at Edson's like 39 now or something. The reality is he's probably not the fighter he was at 32 years of age. That's just a fact. But is Edson still a really good fighter? Yeah, I mean, you look what he did against Sadiq Usyk, who's also a very good fighter. Billy Quarantillo, he smashed him in a round. He's got losses to Bryce Mitchell, which is, you know, Edson's never been great with the ground game and all that kind of stuff. The other loss was to Giga Chikadze, who is, I think, another very good fighter, but very sort of one-dimensional. We'll get onto this because 304, we've got Giga versus Arnold. There's a path to victory there that's very obvious for Arnold Allen, in my opinion, against Giga Chikadze. But look what he did to Shane Burgos, where he like hit him and he had that delayed knockout where he stumbled backwards almost seconds after the punch. Makwan Amirkhani win against him as well. Prior to that, split decision loss from Dan Ige, and I remember thinking Edson won that fight. So again, Dan Ige, top 10 guy, has been for a very long time now. And then he was up at lightweight, losing to the likes of Paul Felder, Justin Gaethje, but beating Dan Hooker and people like that. And then wins over Gilbert Melendez. He beat Beneil Dariush, Anthony Pettis. He's beaten Paul Felder. He's beaten Bobby Green. You know, this guy has a fantastic, fantastic resume. And I think you're right. I think the narrative does seems to a little bit be, oh, well, we're seeing the end of Edson Barboza now. And yeah, I don't know if that's true. I think there's plenty of people in that featherweight division and in the top 15 of featherweight that Edson could actually do very well against.
Absolutely.
So I think because Larone's not had like a marquee win under his belt, I think people go, oh, who's Lerone Murphy? It's like, this guy's undefeated. He's on like a 6 or 7 UFC fight win streak now. It's not his fault that people haven't accepted fights against him. He's clearly very, very dangerous. And he's very well-rounded. And I agree with you, basically, is what I'm saying. That I think the narrative has a little bit been, oh, Edson's on the way out. And look, he is getting older in a smaller division. He's not the fighter he was, but I do think Lerone really is good enough to challenge at the top of the featherweight division.
Absolutely. What do you think's next for him, mate? Who's a good
that's
fighter?
the interesting thing. Like, well, he said he sort of wants to fight in Manchester. I don't think that's a good idea. I think if he fights in Manchester, Manchester's 2 months away. Firstly, he looked pretty beat up.
He limped out
that up kick that he took in round 1. That must, like, if there was a minute to go in that fight when the up kick landed, who knows how that fight would have gone? Could Barboza have, you know, swept him and put him on his back? Because he landed in his guard almost, didn't he? And if that fight was going on longer, another minute, could things have gone? Because I think even Lerone said, I don't even know what hit me. but he was pretty beat up. His face looked quite battered and bruised. He was limping as well. I think if he tries to get on the Manchester card, what will happen is he will have to fight someone on relatively short notice when he's already been quite beat up only 2 months prior. And he'll fight someone unranked because they'll give someone like I don't know, like maybe a Sean Woodson or someone like that. I'm trying to think who's outside of the featherweight rankings that's won recently. But they'll probably give him Nate Landwehr, someone, I don't know, but give him someone outside of the rankings because that person who's outside will just take it, go, yeah, I'll fight him in 2 months' notice. He's a ranked guy. I want to get a ranking next to my name, whatever. And I don't think there's much to gain from that for Lerone. I think Lerone is better off going, let me go to Manchester, let me be in the crowd, watch it, get the applause when the camera's on me. Let me go back into the media room and have a chat with them and talk about who I want to fight next or the next fight coming up and all that kind of stuff. He doesn't need to rush to get into Manchester. Fight in September, wherever, America, whatever. I mean, October, they'll probably do an Abu Dhabi thing. Maybe he thinks that's too far away. But he's Mr. Abu Dhabi or was Mr. Abu Dhabi for a while. So I think that's the way to go, is just wait and fight someone because he deserves it. On a 7-fight win streak, undefeated fighter in the UFC. I think he deserves someone in that top 10 range, whether it's a Calvin Kattar or a Josh Emmett or someone like that. I think that's the way to go for Lerone Murphy. And I think for the benefit of his career, it would be way better for him to not worry about Manchester, just get himself fit and healthy, and come September time, have a really big fight against someone.
Yeah, beating someone sort of unranked, so he can fight in Manchester. There's a risk he could lose, and then where does that leave him? And also, if he wins, what would that do for his ranking? Probably nothing.
Yeah, exactly. If he wins, he just stays in the same place. He's just racked up another win, which is great. It looks good.
And maybe it's money in the bank. I don't know. Obviously, you don't know the situation he was talking about, wanting to provide for his family. I've not had a chance to see.
But he did just win fight of the night.
Did he win? Did he get the 50 Gs?
He did.
Yeah.
So he's got his 2 checks plus 50 grand bonus. So you'd imagine that he's I mean, I don't know what a fighter like Lerone Murphy's on from kind of like win show kind of stuff. I mean, he's not a huge name, even though he's a very good fighter. He's probably had to renegotiate his contract once, maybe twice. So, but I can't imagine he's on a huge amount of money. But that 50 grand bonus, probably a big help to him at this stage. And hopefully the people in the know will be like, to do that to Edson is really good. Sadiq couldn't do that. There's other people that couldn't do that. And he showed such a well-roundedness to his game, like taking Edson down at points, pushing him up against the fence and keeping him there at points. I know it's not the most appealing to the fans always, that style of fight, but the fact that he could mix that up with such a great jab and he was throwing good combinations. He pressured Edson against the fence. Yeah, it was doing really, really well. So
Sean Shelby said that was his best performance.
Yeah. So I think with that, hopefully, and he's got a great backstory as well. I mean, we've had him on the show a few times now. The whole thing about him, getting shot and then spitting out the bullet and going to the hospital. I mean, that is incredible. Then on top of that, you've got this horrendous, was it car crash or whatever he was in a while ago, and it was out for ages and has come back from that. I mean, I still think he should be called the Miracle. I don't think he should be Iceman. I think he should be the Miracle because of everything that happens outside the cage. Nothing about what's inside the cage. Outside the cage is a bloody miracle that he's doing what he's doing. And I think that nickname really, really suits him.
Absolutely.
So yeah, but yeah, wishing him all the best. Fingers crossed we can get him back on the show at some point soon. But my advice would be, don't rush for Manchester. Heal up and get a really good fight come August, September.
Absolutely. Someone who's there's 2 fighters healing up as well that fought at the weekend, and that's Tyson Fury and Usyk. Usyk's rumoured to have a broken jaw. I don't know if that's been confirmed. But Fury looked bashed up, and I mean, what a fight! What a great fight it was. Did you watch it?
Anyone that's watched this show for long enough knows I am not a big boxing fan. So,
but come on,
truth be told,
undisputed heavyweight champion of the world.
What was it? I'll tell you what I was doing. I was at a comedy gig. I was at Tom Allen was doing a charity comedy gig in Bromley, and I went down there and I was watching that with my wife, a friend, and my wife's mum. So that's what I was doing. The complete opposite of watching a boxing fight. But yeah, look, I have very little interest in boxing. I think MMA is a way superior sport. What I would say is, from the little that I've seen on Twitter, the videos, stuff like that, it sounds like it was relatively close, other than round 9, where Usyk really rocked him and put him against the ropes and all that stuff. What it has done, this fight, for me, is it's made me go, okay, I'm interested in the rematch. Like, when the rematch rolls along, I'm going to be like, oh, does anyone watching boxing? I'll come around yours and watch some boxing. Like, I'm interested now. Because if I'm honest, my opinion on the fight was, well, Fury's massive. He moves very well, Fury, so he should be able to deal with Usyk. And little did I know, Usyk was just, going to land that shot in round 9, which it sounds like was the big moment of the fight. I mean, you've actually watched it, right? So talk me through kind of, because I've heard other people, some people have said they have scored it for Tyson, but I think most people scored it for Usyk, but it was close. So how did you score the fight, view it, and how was watching that moment in round 9?
Quite interesting watching that moment, because I was watching it on a dodgy stream on one of my doorman's phones as I'm standing outside my club, trying to actually police 600 people that had come to the club, but I'm doing my best standing by the queue, literally trying to look over this doorman's shoulder to it. It was our friend Reese, and he had it on his phone, and we were just trying to sort of watch the stream on there, which was great, and it was, did get to watch the fight, and I thought the first couple of rounds, I thought Fury does what Fury does well, was just on his toes, uses his reach advantage and his size. And I think in the early rounds, it looked to me that Usyk was trying to sort of find a way in, really. He was doing a lot of work to Fury's body. And it just seemed that he was just sort of feeling him out a little bit. And I think he just got more and more confident. And I'll be honest as well, I'm not a big Tyson Fury fan. I'm a big fan of Usyk. I think he's a fantastic sports person. I think he's a really good... what's the word I'm looking for, Blake? He's... like you'd say the same for Wonder Boy. He's a fantastic...
And it's like an ambassador for the sport or something.
Exactly that. And yeah, some of the lead up the stuff, the John Fury headbutting.
Oh my God, that was
just pathetic.
I mean, apparently he was like a part of Usyk's team.
He looked about 14.
He looked about 14. Like maybe he was 21 and just looked really young, but he looked about 14. What's going on?
Yeah.
Like, he looked so much bigger than him as well. Like, John Fury, I know he's older, but he's a massive bloke. Like, it's absolutely huge. He's a scary human being.
Well, if you listen to the Cole Frampton episode, like, Cole was... He said he was scared of him. He said when he put it on him, he was like, oh, my God.
Yeah. But he is a huge individual. He's a huge man. And also, that he could do anything, as we saw in that clip that went viral of him headbutting what looked like a child. I know it wasn't a child, but it looked like a child. And he cut his own head open, I'm assuming on the guy's tooth or something like that. I'm like, what are you doing, man? And I don't want to blame Tyson for anything like that. You shouldn't be guilty by association. Like, we've all got members of our family, whether it be parents, siblings, whatever, that you're like, oh, please don't associate me with that person. And so I don't want to do that to Tyson. But gee, what? Like, I just think don't have him in the corner.
Do you know what?
Just keep him away from it all. It really, because it brings down people's opinion of Tyson. And Tyson's done nothing wrong in that situation. He wasn't even there. I saw that clip of him seeing him, was like, what have you done to your head, you silly? See you next Tuesday. And yeah, it's just it makes Tyson and the whole team look worse. And I think what you see now is people like yourself that are British fans, British combat sports fans, going, I'd rather cheer on the Ukrainian.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tyson Fury said things in the past that I don't agree with.
Me too.
I'm not a fan of. But the John Fury thing, just to sort of touch on that a bit more, like why, if that was in the UK, he'd be arrested for assault and should be, dealt with. But I think because there's so much money tied up in Tyson Fury in that country, I think that John Fury feels like he's got a little bit of artistic license to just do what he wants and know full well he's going to get away with it. And the press are going to follow him and whip him up into a frenzy because it's great news for them. That sort of stuff goes viral everywhere, doesn't it? And I just think it's a little bit tragic that there's this old man just going around just talking nonsense constantly and now assaulting people. It's like, it's not a good look for boxing. But that aside, I think the interview with Fury at the post-fight press conference, I thought he was an absolute gentleman. I thought he come across really well. He explained, all the best to Usyk. They're both Christians and they're both, he said he had lots of respect for him and it was very, very sportsmanlike afterwards, which I liked. And I thought
there was the one comment though, wasn't there? I don't know if it was. This is something I've heard about where he was basically like, effectively saying they've sided with the guy whose country's at war.
Yeah, I mean that's just a really ridiculous thing to say, isn't it? Like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, look, give him some kind of leeway. He has just been punched in the head a bunch of times, and let's say round 9 looked pretty dodgy. So people don't always say. I always feel a little bit uncomfortable with some people being interviewed post fights, particularly after a knockout. I know he wasn't knocked out, but you get people that are interviewed by either Joe Rogan or in other situations going to media days and stuff when they've been beaten up a bit and maybe their brains aren't fully functioning at that stage. So I think you've got to give them some leeway, but it wasn't the best comment, and it did sort of slightly detract from this kind of the sportsmanship element of everything else he said.
He's no stranger to saying ridiculous things. He's done it for the best part of his career. But yeah, fantastic work from Usyk. I mean, the rematch is obviously in place. If Usyk beats him again, I don't know. If Usyk's jaw's broken, then this proposed fight in October, will that happen then? I don't know. In the meantime, could Fury fight Anthony Joshua? That's the fight that everyone wants to see. Well,
look, let's do this. So let's get on to all the potential things that could happen. Firstly, are you more excited about the rematch if it happens than you were about the first fight?
Probably the same. I'm not even more excited.
Really?
Yeah,
well, I've gone from not really watching it and not caring to going, if this is on in October, I'm going to try and watch it. So I feel way more interested and excited about it. But if his jaw's broken, if something's going on there, if it's not going to be October, if they'd have to wait till, I don't know, December or the New Year, something like that, do you think that's what happened? They should make Fury AJ?
Yes, of course. But we know that in boxing, and certainly when you're dealing with Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, nothing ever happens quickly. All seems to take forever. And
money talks, and that kind of Riyadh season stuff. I think that's the thing with, we get a lot of sports washing stuff going on when it comes with those kind of like Middle East money getting involved in football and golf and other things. But when it comes to boxing, from a fan's, well, I'm not a massive fan to say, but like from the outside looking in, it looks like it's done it the world of good.
Yeah, totally.
Like these fight cards that have been made quite quickly and high-end fighters fighting each other. I mean, there was one a little while ago that was almost like an MMA card where you had, was it the AJ and Ngannou card that also had Parker and Zhang on it and stuff like that. It's like, those two would normally headline their own fight, but they were on the undercard of someone else. And then there was the Deontay Wilder being on the undercard of someone's fight. Like, but there's more of that going on. Like, oh wow, this is like a huge boxing event where fans of boxing will go, I'm watching 3 or 4 fights rather than just the main one, and I might dip in and out of some of the others. So there seems to have been some benefit to that, and you never know if they. I mean, Fury AJ really should happen at Wembley.
Yeah, of course.
That's where it should be happening. But if the Saudi money is there and they put it on and they say, look, we're going to give you stupid money to do this fight,
money talks.
They'll take it and they'll do it there. Money talks.
Just
who do you think wins that? Looking at Fury, obviously we had Fury and Ngannou where he did not look himself at all. Then a good fight against Usyk. But he's lost it.
I thought
AJ's looked great in his last 2 fights. Who wins, Fury or AJ?
I still thought Fury looked a little off at the weekend. I still didn't think he looked loose and comfortable in there. He said otherwise. He said he was having a great time in there. The Anthony Joshua that we saw finish Francis Ngannou, looked great, but
it's Ngannou.
In theory, he should look great, against Francis Ngannou. But yeah, in the fight before that, I thought AJ looked a better fighter. But in previous things, I don't know. I think, he's had his off days, and, hopefully the camp he's with now has got him where he needs to be. It's a fight where I'm not necessarily an AJ fan. I'm not necessarily a Tyson Fury fan. So I'm there as a fan of boxing to watch that, and I don't care who wins. But I'd love to see that fight. I think British fight fans deserve to see that fight. It's, you've had 2 world champions there. Let's make it happen. But unfortunately, it's not just Dana White saying, right, you're going to fight him, and it happens. There's too many organisations and so much politics involved in boxing that it just makes it a very slow procedure. But just quickly, I want to touch on a couple of other little boxing-based things. Former guest of the show, but it was one of the first ever shows we ever recorded, and we had some glitches in the studio, so we've never actually got around to putting the show out, but we will have her back in the studio. Is former WBA women's bantamweight champion of the world, Nina Hughes, my sister-in-law, who went out to Australia to defend her title because no one in the UK seemed to want to fight her, and probably got the best press she's ever had, but for all the wrong reasons. And it was surreal. She went out there. She boxed in a fight where I thought she was probably about 3 rounds up. Nina felt that she'd won the fight, and she was then awarded the win via points. Then it all disappeared and went quiet. And then they come back out with scores and awarded the fight to her opponent and took the belt from her in her opponent's hometown. It was did you see it go a bit viral on the old internet, Blake?
I've not seen the fight itself, so I can't comment on the fight. But yes, it went everywhere. Like every big kind of sports news platform was putting this out because it was crazy that, they've announced Nina the winner, and then they pull them back and go, no, it's someone else. Now, to some people, it's just, well, the guy said the wrong name. It's not that big a deal. It's a bad look, but the guy said the wrong name. But when you then start listening to Nina and Nina's team, I think you can forgive them for thinking there's some sort of conspiracy going on here, because it looked like even in the lead up to the fight, there was issues with judges. There was issues at one point they were all like, was it New Zealand or Australian judges? And then they swapped it round to the other way. And then it was all very dodgy. And then there was a couple of other things that now is escaping my brain, but that they were talking about where it was like, oh, drug testing. Yeah. They wanted no drug testing. And it was a WBA title fight. They wanted no drug testing. And then they're like, no, I think we should drug test this. So for a multitude of reasons, some of which are escaping me now, but those two I think are pretty significant. I think you can totally forgive Nina and her team for saying, this isn't right.
Yeah.
There's something dodgy going on here. And so I think you have to do the rematch.
There's a rematch clause,
You
but
have to do.
whether that's going to get actioned or not, Nina's not sure. I hope so.
It's unfair because look, Nina is someone that is like, was she like 41? She should be lauded, I think, as a woman that has got into pro boxing so late in life and has gone and won a world title, and no one wanted to fight her. She had to go to defend her belt in Australia against. Is she an Australian or a New Zealander?
Yeah, she's Aussie. Yeah.
So in her hometown, like she shouldn't be having to do that, but she's done it. And what unbelievable kind of guts to go and do that anyway in the first place. But she's fighting someone who, again, I don't know enough about I can't Chernica. I don't know enough about her, but I've heard that she sort of went viral at one point because she was at a weigh-ins and she wasn't wearing clothes. She'd painted clothes on herself or something. So
look,
I think no. There's a I think it's fair to say here that there's people in boxing and maybe women's boxing that see that and go, "There's money there,"
100%.
because she will generate interest because she is using her sexuality to sell the fights. Now, as a fan of, well, again, more MMA than boxing, but as a fan, I suppose, of combat sports, if you want to lump me in there with that, I'm not really interested in that. I don't want fights to be sold on that. And I do think that there's plenty of women out there as well, I think, that would go, it's not a great look for the sport when you want young men and women or boys and girls to be looking at this sport and taking it seriously, but people are marketing themselves using their sexuality. It's not. I don't think it's a great look. Some people probably won't care about it. I don't think it's a great look. But there's going to be people out there that look at that and go, Nina Hughes is 41 years old and she's just a grinder.
Single mum of 2 kids.
Trying her single mum of 2 kids. Just do it. But that should be the story.
Yeah.
But the easy thing, the thing that gets clicks, the thing that gets Instagram views is going to be the person that's using their sexuality to sell the fight.
Look at Shannon Courtney.
So,
Shannon Courtney don't want to fight Nina because she's got forged in her hand constantly. She's literally everywhere. Called out Nina basically saying, look how many social media followers you've got. Why would I fight you? Come back when you've got X amount of followers. No, you think, what? No, she's got the belt. Like, fight her. You know, be a champ. But unfortunately, you know, a lot of fighters are, and there's nothing wrong with them supplementing their income with OnlyFans and whatever else. There's nothing wrong with that. But that shouldn't mean that you get priority above a fighter. It should be based on your skill set, you know. But we know, as being fans of the UFC, that if you say the right things, do the right things, you've got the right attention on you, and the X amount more eyes on you. Unfortunately, that gives you a very big head start on people that haven't.
But again, this plays into that kind of conspiracy theory sort of idea of like, well, when people are looking at Chernica, they're maybe seeing pound signs, dollar signs. She can sell fights by doing what she's doing. And they're looking at Nina and thinking, well, she's good. She's got an unbelievable story, but that's not going to get the clicks. It's not going to get the views. And it's a shame. Maybe it's, you know, and this isn't me having a go at Chernica or anyone that is using their sexuality to sell their fights and stuff. It's not for me, but you know, whatever, if that's what you want to do, fine. But it's a real shame and a sad thing just in combat sports world, society, whatever, that, as you say, the story of Nina Hughes, single mum, 2 kids, 41-year-old world champion, people aren't giving that the weight it maybe should be given.
Absolutely. I know we want to get on the 304, but just quickly, also got announced this week, whilst we were talking boxing, Darren Till will be fighting, is it Cesar Chavez Jr.?
Yes.
I mean, I've seen a few comments saying, like, does anybody actually care? Are you bothered about watching Darren Till box?
No, but I'm not bothered about the main event on that card. I'm not bothered about Tyson versus Paul. Like, I might, because it's on Netflix and it's easily accessible and I won't have to pay for it, I might watch it. But if anyone was going, if they said to me, pay a tenner for it, I wouldn't do it. Like, I really don't care enough. But because it will be for free, because I'm already a Netflix subscriber, I will probably watch it.
Yeah.
But
I think I'd agree with that.
I have zero interest in it, really. It'll probably be on when there's not much else going on. If there was, at the same time as Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, if there was a UFC Apex card that was very mediocre, I would probably watch the Apex card.
Right.
That's how little I care about Paul v. Tyson. So I certainly don't care about Darren Till versus Chavez Jr. Having said that, good luck to Darren Till. You know, a British MMA fighter. He's given us some good moments in the past. I'd like to see him come back and do well and get a win maybe in whatever sport he wanted to do. Nothing against Darren at all. I just don't care massively about the boxing stuff. I mean, I literally did not watch the one of the biggest fights of a generation or whatever between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. Do I care about Darren Till or Jake Paul or Mike Tyson at boxing? No. So, yeah.
All right. Well, look, let's. We've been banging on for ages. We haven't even got on to 304 yet. So, as you said at the beginning of the show, we was going to do our predictions, but Dana's already announced it and balls that show up. So, I guess the fights that are announced were kind of what. I mean, I had some wild cards I was going to throw in there, but
I'd love to know what they were.
We won't go into that because I'm just thinking it's going to end up going all over the place, and we've got to be mindful of time today. But we've got obviously Leon versus Bilal. Bilal's been, they've opened the door to the back room and they've let him out, and they've still shut a few other fighters back in there, but he's allowed out. And he's going to get his shot, rightfully, I think, against Leon Edwards. I don't think it's the most exciting fight to headline a card, but it's the right fight to headline a card,
Completely agree. And I think the card is stacked with other fights where you go, this is still a great pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And I think Leon is doing well. The fact that Tom Aspinall is the co-main event against Curtis Blades, another really good fight. And again, a worthy fight. We should be getting John Jones. Make no doubts about it. I hate and always have hated, even before Tom was an interim champion, I always hated the Stipe John Jones fight. It's not for me. Stipe, 3 years out of the game. Last fight was the loss to Ngannou. It'd be 4 years out of the game before the time they fight. I want Jones to fight heavyweights that are relevant. And don't get me wrong, I know Stipe is the winningest heavyweight champion, all that stuff. There's a legacy there for sure, whatever. But it means nothing to me beating 42-year-old Stipe. So it just means nothing. I would have obviously rathered seen, probably wouldn't have happened in England, obviously, but I would have rathered seen Aspinall fight Jones. But this is the next best thing, and it's dangerous as well.
I think this is the most dangerous fight for Tom Aspinall.
I agree. I think this is the most dangerous fight for Tom Aspinall. It was meant to be Cyril Gane, but Cyril Gane's apparently shooting a film in Paris or whatever, so he can't take the fight. It's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? Because you're like, it's your chance to have the belt, man. Like, you're turning it down because you're shooting a film. Like, I don't know.
We can all read between the lines there. Do you know what I
mean? Yeah.
If you're ranked where you're ranked and you get a sniff, an opportunity to fight for the heavyweight belt, whether it be interim or not, you down tools, and that is everything. That's your life goal, isn't it?
I mean, look, if he's contracted and then it is difficult to get out of shooting a film, all that stuff, whatever. But I think someone like Cyril Gane, he's not going to have a huge part in it. He's not going to be he's not going to be filming 5 days a week for 3 months. That's not going to be his schedule. I'm sure he's probably filming like a couple of days 1 week, 1 day the next week, maybe 2 days, 2-3 weeks after that. Like, that's how that works.
Is that still too much for a proper camp?
I don't know. But also, he's probably not a huge part, so he probably can just go, guys, I'm really sorry. I've got to bow out of this film, man. I've got something massive coming my way. I don't know.
99.9% of fighters in the UFC would go, see ya. I'm fighting for the belt.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I mean, look, we don't know what his contract situation is. Easier said than done. However, given the fact that he knows Tom Aspinall previously, when Tom went to Paris to try and set up a fight with him, it does, in my opinion, speak volumes. But yeah, Curtis Blade's a difficult fight. I think the most difficult fight in the heavyweight division for Tom, so that's going to be interesting. Paddy versus Bobby Green. We knew it was either going to be Bobby Green or Renato Moicano. They've gone for Bobby Green, so that is going to be an interesting one. It feels very much striker versus grappler in that kind of thing. If Paddy gets him down, he should do the business, but if he starts swinging, chin in the air against Bobby Green, he could be in trouble. Yep. Giga Chikadze's coming over to fight Arnold Allen, which I think is a really good fight for Arnold. And then you've also got Mohamed Makayev against Manel Kape in what could be a number one contender fight for the flyweight belt. Let's hope Manel Kape makes weight because he's had issues with that in the past, but that could be a number one contender fight. So that's brilliant. We're going to obviously get into all those when we do a preview show for 304 in mid-July or whatever it's going to be. That's when we'll get into
Taylor Loughran's been announced as well, hasn't he?
Has he?
Yeah.
Who against?
Let me pull it up. I've not got my computer here, so do excuse me while I have a quick look at me telephone. Let's have a look. Who we got? Who's he fighting? He's fighting Ramon Tavares, and they've also announced that Shona Bannon will be fighting Ravena Oliveira. So, and obviously Molly's on the card, isn't she? She's fighting Bruna Brazil.
Yes, she is. So we're getting the prelim sorted now as well. I'm not sure if Nathaniel Wood's booked or if he's got a fight booked or anything, but I hope Nathaniel Wood would be on the card as well.
Congratulations to Nathaniel as well, former guest of the show, friend of the show, who's had a little baby.
Oh, yeah.
And,
had a little baby.
So huge congrats to Nate. Yeah, I mean,
you'd imagine you'd see like a Mick Parkin on there as well, something like that.
Yeah,
maybe a Davy Grant. That'd be great to have Davy Grant fighting in the UK.
Fight up north. Obviously,
that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, we've not seen anybody outside of Great Britain on that card yet. As you know, normally you get some. You normally get an Icelandic fighter or a Dane or someone like that on the card.
Vittori maybe someone like that.
Yeah. So the other fight,
but it looks like they would probably be on the main card though. Maybe. So it looks like it might be UK versus the world or UK and Ireland versus the world maybe.
So one of the things that we have seen this week in the news as well, he's talked that MVP has been saying he wants to fight Ian Gary, and he's said he's agreed to fight him, and then Ian Gary, who's been chasing the Colby fight, which looks like I don't know. I don't think Colby wants that fight, and I think he could be spending a long time chasing that fight. Yep. So apparently he's also said that he's agreed to fight MVP. Now, as much as I'm sure we'd like to be sitting there in Manchester and watching that, I look at how stacked that's going to be for a British card already. You've got Tom on there, you've got Leon on there, you've got Paddy on there. Them three fights alone, you've got Arnold on there. That's not missing anything. That's a stacked card as it is. I looked at 303. Yes, we know, the big man's on there.
Yeah.
The rest of the card is quite average.
I haven't looked at it at all. Let me try and pull it up.
I think, having Ian Gary's long, talked about, he's now coming here to take over and he's the man and, and what the influence Connor's had on him and he wants to fight on the same card as Connor. I think that's the fight that they're going to put on 303 to really, not that he's going to need boosting because Connor's fighting. But if you look at that, have you got it up?
I've got it up. Yeah, it's not great. Look, I think Joe Pyfer's a decent fighter. I think he could be a good one to look out for. But against Marc-Andre Barrios, it's not going to be an amazing fight. Cub Swanson, Andre Feely, that's one for the hardcores. I like that fight.
It's two sort of like, Cub's a legend and Feely's, top. But it's not huge, is it? And
no. Peyton Talbot is someone I really like. I think could go a long way. But yeah, it's not. And obviously, the other thing is the Khalil Roundtree Jamal Hill fight is off because of
he's popped.
Khalil done it. But he kind of admitted it to the UFC. Like he went to the UFC and went because I don't want to besmirch Khalil Roundtree at all, because he went to the UFC and went, "Oh, I've just found out I've ingested this through my supplements because they've mixed it with this and I didn't know." And they went, "Oh, that's on the banned list." And he went, "Well, I'm letting you know that's what's happened." So he didn't try and hide anything. He took it to the UFC. He didn't pop for anything. He admitted to the UFC, "I've just taken a supplement and it's got this in it." So I think good on Khalil Roundtree. Hopefully the suspension won't be too long. I don't know what's going on with it, but yeah, annoyingly,
because he's looking great.
He's looking great, and this was a big fight for him to fight the number 3 ranked guy, be in the top 5. You know, that would have been phenomenal for Khalil Roundtree. But unfortunately, it's not what's out. But as you say, that fight card is all about Conor v. Chandler. You could have anything. You could have me fighting you on that card, and no one would care, because Conor v. Chandler is just what people want to see. They want to see Conor McGregor.
You better care, mate. You better care, because I'll be coming for you, mate.
But yeah, well, so
I think Ian Gary.
MVP, you were talking.
Yeah.
Ian Gary MVP would be a very, very welcome addition to that card for sure. And maybe they can find someone to replace Khalil, maybe an Alexander Rakic.
That's a good shout.
Off losses.
That's a good shout.
I mean, maybe even Yuri Prochazka. That would still be a really great fight. I think Prochazka versus Jamal Hill would be a great fight. So if they can do that and have MVP Gary on that card, then that makes that card really quite special, I think, with Conor headlining. I would like to see MVP Gary. I would obviously rather see it at 304, but it looks like they're going for potentially 303. But what I think Gary said was, "I've accepted a fight with MVP, waiting on his team to accept it, but there's concerns about whether MVP can make the weight in that short notice." So that's what I've heard. I believe that came from Ian Gary. So we will have to just wait and see. But it's a great fight. I was really into the Colby versus Gary fight.
Yeah, massively.
I do like that. But I appreciate that, this would be a really, really good fight, MVP v Gary. I think it'd be a better fight all in all, just as a spectacle, than Colby fighting. So I've got very little interest in Colby at the moment. But yeah, a couple of questions I want to ask you about 304, because obviously we're going to get into fight breakdowns and stuff during our preview show. But would you have changed any matches? Is there anything on the main card where you would have gone, "I would rather see this"? And I mean, if you're going to go mental, go mental. But I'm thinking in a semi-realistic way.
I'd rather Paddy have fought Moicano.
Yeah? Okay, why? Are you worried about Paddy?
Do you know what? Look, I don't like speaking, saying anything negative about British fighters that have been on the show that we love. And Paddy's been so great, with us on the show. He's been on many times when we launched. But it is there to be seen that, I know Scassers don't get knocked out, and I hope that's the case. But basically, just to reiterate what you said earlier, if he does swing and leave his chin high, he's the last person you want standing in front of you, because his boxing is ridiculous, and he's a sniper as well, and he'll catch you. So I'm hoping Paddy can just get to him, grapple him, tie him up, and get him out of there.
Yep.
And I think the lead up to it will be fun. I think Bobby Green's, he talks some real gangster stuff, and I think it'll be fun in the press conference. And I do think there's some good chit chat to be had there, and it's a fun fight. And ultimately Paddy's got to get in there with that level of fighter. I know he's just beaten Tony Ferguson, but Bobby Green is still super durable, and is he's still looking good. He's had his losses, but I think this is a good test for Paddy, and I just hope that he gets him out of there and continues to find his way up that division. Great to see Molly there. Whenever Paddy and Molly are on a card, that's fantastic. Leon, would there be anyone else I want to see him fight? Probably not. I like the fact that Balawi's getting his shot, because it must be so difficult being Bilal when you know that the UFC probably don't really like you, because you don't put bums on seats, and he must be looking at Leon going, "You've been here, you've been this, you've been me. Like, give me the fucking chance. Like, and so but it was interesting. Am I right in saying that all of them fighters that Leon got offered, that he said yes to, Bilal wasn't one of them?
That's, I think, what I've heard. I know that Leon was on Helwani's show recently. I think he said something like that, but I haven't listened to the show, so I can't say 100%, but I do think that maybe is something that went down.
That's interesting.
But
well, what about you?
I think Micaiah versus Cap is a more fun fight than, say, Micaiah versus Albazi. But I think Micaiah versus Albazi, winner of that fight, definitely gets a title shot. I'm pretty sure the winner of Micaiah versus Cap probably gets a title shot too. But just because of Cap and the weight and all that kind of stuff, I'm like, it's a risk. It is a risk when you sign to fight him because you don't know if he's going to make weight or not. But I think Cap is a more fun fight than Albazi. But I think that would have been interesting for sure. Arnold versus Yair, that would have been a bit better than Giga. And they were both coming off 2 losses. I felt like that was a good one to do. But yeah, I understand Giga being European as well. Makes sense. But yeah, another question I want to ask you then. What are the chances, and we're just talking main card, those 5 main card fights, what are the chances of an all UK wins on the main card?
Yeah, I think it's possible. Of course it's possible. But I think it's...
Yeah. But do you think it's a high chance?
Likely?
Give me a percentage. Give me a percentage chance all UK wins on the main card.
60%.
Oh, it's tight. It's tight. It is tight, though. There's some good matchups on there.
I worry about Curtis Blades. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I think Curtis Blades is legit, and he can knock people out and he can wrestle, and that's what Tom can do. So I think it's a really well-matched fight. You know, when we knew that Tom was going to be fighting Pavlovich, we just thought, well, you know, we didn't expect him to knock him out that quickly. No. But we thought, well, Tom's wrestling and jiu-jitsu's great. Yeah. And Blades ain't lacking there either. And so that worries me a little bit.
Although Almeida took Blades down, didn't he? That actually made me think that Tom's got a better shot because Almeida's much smaller than Tom. Yeah. And if Almeida can get Blades down and put him on his back a little bit, granted, Blades did get up and then he had that moment where he knocked Almeida out when Almeida was trying to take it down on the fence. But that, to me, was the size issue that I always said with Almeida might be a problem. I think that fight actually gives Tom a lot of confidence to go, oh, I thought maybe I had to dance around and be on my feet here. I can take you down. If Almeida can take you down, I can take you down. And when Tom gets you down, he's going to be a lot bigger, and that jiu-jitsu is lethal. Yeah. So that's an interesting one.
I think Bilal's a problem. But
I think Bilal
I listened to an interview with Usman, and you know, and he was saying that he thinks, you know, Leon has got this, and I think if Kamaru struggled to get Leon down, I think Bilal's going to really struggle, because I don't think he's got that strength that Usman has, and I think that we're really seeing Leon Edwards develop into something really, really special.
I think Leon has had the best build-up to this fight in terms of he's fought Usman twice, then Colby. He's been fighting wrestlers. Leon is going to be a much better striker than Bilal. Bilal maybe he's looking at tape of Leon and how he's avoiding takedowns up against the fence and all that stuff and trying to work a way of fixing that and sorting that out and surprising him with something. But ultimately, Leon has had his last 3 fights training to
nullify wrestlers,
people off of him, nullify wrestlers, exactly, and then pick them apart on the feet. Yeah. And I believe he can do that against Bilal. Yeah. I really do. I think that's the game plan. It's the same as the other fights, which makes me think this should be all muscle memory and all. Yeah. Just as long as Leon's taking him seriously, as long as Leon doesn't think less of Bilal,
I don't
because
think
he's
so.
been in there with him once before. As long as he takes him seriously and gives him the credibility he deserves and all that kind of stuff, takes him seriously, then I think Leon should deal with this relatively comfortably in the same manner that he dealt with Usman the second time, with Colby and stuff like that.
And
who go on.
And Bobby Green, I worry about, as I mentioned before, I think Bobby Green's, boxing, he's, I think he's one of the best boxers in the UFC.
All right. If you were given £100 to go, oh, do you know what? That fighter is gonna win. Who's the main one that you go, that's the one I think is most likely to win? I'm taking back that money analogy now. I don't like that because we're not gambling fans on this show. But if you had to pick one fighter that is the most likely to win, the UK fighter on the main card, who's the most likely to win?
Arnold Allen.
I think I agree. I agree with that. I think there is a path to. I do think Leon. I think it's between Leon and Arnold for me. But I think obviously Giga's very good. He can catch you with whatever. If Arnold does the smart game plan and gets into boxing range with him and then tries to take him down, nullifies him, doesn't have to be pretty. Doesn't have to be exciting for the fans. Don't get into some kind of Dan Hooker war thing. Just go, okay, I know what your skill set is. I know where you're weakest. I'm going to take you down. Arnold's got great wrestling. We saw that in the Evloev fight. He's got great wrestling. He can deal with that very, very well. And I'd like to see him really pressure Giga, put him up against the fence or take him down the middle of the octagon and just really just work him hard, just drain him and drain him and drain him. Obviously, Arnold can strike. He can hit hard. He can strike. But it's a dangerous game to play with someone with the credentials of Giga Chikadze. And I think that's the one where if he's got a smart game plan, that's how he deals with him and deals with him quite comfortably. But I do think Leon's up there as well. As you say, I worry a bit with Tom a little bit, but I do favour Tom. I worry a little bit. Paddy, Bobby Green, I don't know which way that's going to go. If Paddy can get hold of him, get the jiu-jitsu going, then it's going to be Paddy all day. But as I say, there's worries there against Bobby Green. And then Manel Kape. Manel Kape's a really good fighter. And Mokaev, again, if he grabs him, takes him down, shouldn't be too much of a problem. He should deal with Manel Kape well enough. But Manel Kape is a very dangerous striker. And we've seen Mokaev, I don't know. I don't want to say make mistakes, but look vulnerable in places.
Yeah.
And it's just making sure that he doesn't get too vulnerable in that Kape fight. But certainly going to be a really great card. Good enough to keep you awake at 4 or 5 in the morning?
We'll have a couple of Red Bulls. We'll be all right, mate.
Yeah, we'll be all right.
Well, look, thanks everyone for watching and listening. If you are listening and you've not checked out the show that we've got over on YouTube, come over and give us a little watch over there and subscribe. And and if this is your first time that you've discovered this show, then go and have a look in the archives, because we've had Tom Aspinall on, we've had Arnold Allen on plenty of times, we've had Paddy on a few times, we've had Lerone Murphy on, we've had all of you, we've had Molly, we've had all your favourite fighters on. So go check them out. And also big thanks to our sponsors, Fat Candy. Head over to their website now. Use that discount code SWEETMMA, as well as ferociousfightwear.com discount code for what was it? MMA Fan Podcast 15. Other than that, I think we're done, mate.
We're done.
Hopefully,
see you later,
next
guys.
time we'll be both back in the studio. We're gonna have a little catch up.
Both back in the studio, hopefully for the preview for 302, Dustin against Islam Makhachev.
Oh, can't wait. And no.
Can't wait. Oh God. I hope you're right. I just can't see it.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Bye.